Okay, so today we're going to be learning about comparing and the order of fractions. A fraction represents an equal part of a whole. So for example, 3/4 is basically 3 parts of 4 if you divide it into 4. The parts of a fraction are the numerator, which is the top number, the denominator, which is the bottom number, and for example, you can see in 5/6, 5 is the numerator and 6 is the denominator. So when
Neha, even you need to unmute here in Zoom.
so the first rule for comparing fractions is to check if you have the same denominator. And if you have the same denominator, then you'll have to compare the numerators. So in 3/8 and 6/8, the denominator is the same. So when you look at the numerator, it's 3 and 6, and 6 is greater than 3, which means 6/8 is greater than 3/8. And in here, the denominator is both 10, and when you look at the numerator, it's 7 and 2, and 7 is bigger than 2, which makes it the bigger fraction. Here we have 12 as the same denominator, and 5 and 9. And 9 is greater than 5, which means it is the bigger fraction. And the denominators are the same. So when you look at the numerators, it's 11 and 4, and 11 is much greater than 4, which makes it the bigger one. 6 is the same denominator for both of the fractions, and the numerator is 1 and 5, and 5 is bigger than 1, so that's the bigger fraction. And here also we have 8 and 3 as the numerators, and 8 is bigger than 3. Here we have the denominator as the same for both, which is 11, and then the numerator is also the same for both, which is 4. So these two fractions would be equal to each other. In this comparison, we have 7 as the same denominator and 6 and 2 as the numerators, and 6 is greater than 2, which means it has to be the greater fraction. Here we have 12 and 9, and 12 is greater than 9, so 12/14 is greater. In this comparison, you can tell that 13 is greater than 5, which means that 13/16 are greater than 5/16. So the ordering is basically when you go from least to greatest and all of the fractions have the same denominator. So for example, in this order, we have 2/9, 7/9, and 4/9. But since it has to go from least to greatest, you have to switch the 4/9 and the 7/9 places so that it can equal 2/9, 4/9, and then 7/9. So for these fractions, it'll be 1/8, 5/8, and 6/8. And then for this, we have the same denominator, and we just have to rearrange them. So it'll be 2/10, 3/10, and 9/10. So the second rule is if the numerator, which is the top number, if it's the same, then the fraction with the smaller denominator is bigger. So, for example, since these these numerators are the same, when looking at the denominators, 4 and 8 are different numbers. And since 4 is less than 8, it means that it's the greater fraction. And in here too, both the numerators are the same, and 6 and 12 are the denominators, which means since 6 is the smallest number in the denominator, then it will have to be the greatest fraction there is. Here we have 3 and 9 as the denominators, and the 2/3 will be greater than the 2/9. And then again we have 10 and 5 as the denominator, and so 5 or 7/5 is greater than 7/10. Here we have 8 and 2 as the denominator, and so 2 is going to be the greater fraction, since the denominator that has the lowest number is the greater fraction, because it is like not split into many parts, which makes it like bigger. And then in here we have 2 and 6 as the denominator, which makes 2 or 1/2 the greater fraction than 1/6. And then here we have 7 and 14, which makes 7 the greater denominator and the greater fraction. Here we have some word problems. So Ava ate 3 3/5 of a pie. Noah ate 4/5 of a pie. So who ate more? We can determine this by first looking at the denominators, and since they're both 5, we'll have to compare the numerators. And the numerators are 3 and 4. And since 4 is larger than 3, that makes 4/5 a larger fraction, which means that Noah ate more pie. So a ribbon has 8 equal parts, which means it's split into 8 parts, and Mia used 2/8 of the ribbon, and Leo used 6/8 of the ribbon. Who used more? So we'll do the same thing again. Look at the denominator. Since both are 8, because there is 8 equal parts, we'll have to look at the numerator, and 6 is greater than 2, which means that Leo has used 6 parts of the yarn that has 8 parts split. So Leo used the most. Okay, so let's compare 2/3 and 2/8 again. Basically look at the numerators, and you'll see they're both equal. And then look at the denominators, which is 3 and 8, and 8 is greater than 3, which means, or 2. 3 is lower than 8, which means 2/3 is bigger than 2/8. And for the order of these, it should be the same denominator, and then the numerator should go in order from least to greatest, so it would be 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4. So which is closer to 1? 7/8 or 3/8? When looking at the denominator, it's both 8, so we'll have to look at the numerator. And 7 is greater than 3, which means there's more parts in 7/8 than 3/8, which means 7/8 is closer to 1. And this is your homework for this week's class. This one is for comparing the fractions, and then this one is for working on the order of which is from least to greatest of the fractions.